Okay, we are going to go into 7.7, and I'm going to call this 7.7b. We're solving right triangles. So what we've already gone over is we've gone over word problems, and we've gone over SOHCAHTOA, so sine, cosine, and tangent in order to find side lengths. What we're going to talk about today is we're going to find angle measures using the inverse trig function. So inverse tangent, inverse sine, inverse cosine. You do need a regular calculator for this because to find the inverse functions, it's above sine, cosine, tangent, and you have to use the second sine button to get that sine inverse, okay? So, again, this is going to help us find angle measures and not side lengths. So anytime they want you to find an angle measure, you are going to be using the inverse trig functions. If they want you to find a side length, you use a regular trig function. So, let angle A be an acute angle in a right triangle. Approximate the measure of angle A to the nearest tenth of a degree. So what they're saying is the sine ratio is 0.36. So we have to find the angle measure by using the inverse trig function. So I'm going to do inverse of sine, 0.36, enter. So this is saying that that angle will be 21.1 degrees. So what they're saying is sine, remember sine, let's say sine of A up here. Sine is so that is opposite, this guy, over hypotenuse, this guy. So this would be, if I were finding the sine of that guy, it would be x over y, because x is this side, and then y is that side. And so I've taken those side lengths and I've turned them into a ratio. So something over something reduces down to 0.36. And now I do the inverse of that sine to get my angle measure. So go ahead and try the inverse of the rest of these on your own. Pause me, unpause me when you're done to see if you did them correctly. So this one's just inverse tangent of 0.8. So that's 38.7 degrees. So round to the nearest tenth appropriately and correctly. Inverse cosine of 0.35. That's 69.5 degrees. Inverse tangent of 0.42, 22.8 degrees. Inverse cosine of 0.11, 83.7 degrees. And then one more, inverse sine of 0.94, that is 70.1 degrees. Okay. So now I'm going to use the calculator to approximate the measure of angle P to the nearest tenth of a degree, so P. So what you're going to do is we're finding an angle measure, so that means we're going to use our inverse trig functions. This side length is adjacent to angle P. This side length is opposite. So if we think of SOHCAHTOA, so I'm going to write that up here, SOHCAHTOA. I'm going to figure out which one uses adjacent and opposite, and that's tangent. So this would be an inverse tangent function, because I want an angle measure, and it would be O, which is 20, over A, which is 14. So in my calculator, I'm going to do inverse tangent, 20 divided by 14, close out that parenthesis, press enter. That's telling me that that angle P is 55 degrees. It's 55.0 degrees if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, which is 55 degrees. So if this angle is 55, I should be able to quickly find this angle because these two added together equal 90. So if I subtract that from 90, I get 35 degrees. So angle R equals 35 degrees. It didn't ask me to do that, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that. Okay, circle angle P. This one is adjacent, this one is hypotenuse, and I'm always doing angle P because that's what it tells me in the directions. So A and H would be cosine, so this is a cosine inverse because I want an angle measure of A over H. So cosine inverse of 17 divided by 28. So angle P is equal to 52.6 degrees. Go ahead and pause me and try the last one on your own. This one is opposite and this one is hypotenuse. So O and H would be sine, so this is a sine inverse of O over H. Oops, sine inverse of 32 divided by 35, parentheses. That is, angle P is equal to 66.1 degrees. Okay, that's the last page. All right, so the directions say solve for the right triangle, round decimal, answers to the nearest tenth. When they say solve for the right triangle, they want you to find any and all missing angles and any and all missing sides. So I'm going to start on number 10. They gave me this is 90 degrees. They've given me this is 37. These three add to 180. Minus that 90, these two would add to 90. So I can quickly find that other angle measure by doing 90 minus the 37. This angle is 53 degrees. Okay? The other thing that I need to find here are my side lengths. So, to find my side lengths, remember you circle one of these. We're going to start here with x. It does not matter which angle, so this goes back to SOHCAHTOA, not the inverse, but the regular SOHCAHTOA. I can't use Pythagorean theorem here because I don't have two sides. I would have to have two sides to find the third side. Here I have to use a trig function, so I'm going to use angle R. This is adjacent to angle R, and this is hypotenuse, so SOHCAHTOA. I recommend you writing that down anytime you take a quiz or a test. So I'm going to use A and H, so that's cosine. So this is cosine of 37 degrees is equal to A, which is x, over H, which is 22. Remember, I put that over 1 to make a proportion, and I cross multiply. 22 times the cosine of 37 equals x. X is by itself, so that's all I have to put into the calculator. 22 times the cosine of 37. I get x equals 17 nearest tenth, 0.6. So Q to R is 17.6. So now to find P to Q, I could do two things. I could use Pythagorean theorem and do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or I could do a trig function. Okay, so I'm going to find P to Q by using a trig ratio. So this I'm going to label with y. That is opposite of this angle. So I'm going to do O and H. I'm going to use this H that they gave me, not the X that I found, because in case I got that wrong, I don't want to get this one wrong. So O and H is so. So that is sine of 37 is equal to O, which is Y, over H, which is 22. Put that over 1 to make it a proportion. Cross multiply, I get 22 times the sine of 39 equals Y. So 22 times the sine of 39. So y is equal to 13.8. So now we found all sides and we found all angles. Okay, number 11. They've given us two sides and no angles. I'm going to actually find this third side by just doing Pythagorean theorem. So 11 squared plus 18 squared equals, we'll call this c squared. So 121 plus 18 squared. Oops. Equals 445. And then I'm going to take the square root of that answer, and I get C is equal to 21.1. Okay, so now that I know this, I can go ahead and start finding my angles. So I'm going to start with angle P. I'm going to use the two sides that they gave me. So this is adjacent, and this is opposite. So the one that uses O and A would be tangent. And we're having to do a tangent inverse because we're finding angle measures. So this would be tangent inverse of O, which is 18 over A, which is 11. So tangent inverse of 18 divided by 11, that gives me that angle P is equal to 58.6 degrees if I round correctly. That leaves me with N, which I can just subtract that from 90. And I get 31.4 degrees for N. And so then I found all the missing angles and side lengths. So what I need for you to do is I need for you to pause me, try 11 and 12, find all the missing angles and side lengths, and then unpause me when you're done to see how you did. Okay, we're going to start with angle V. I'm going to do 90 minus this 51. So give me 39. Next, I am going to use this angle. I'm going to solve for this X side. That is adjacent, and this is opposite. So that would be tangent, and it's a regular tangent function because I already have the angle measure. I'm finding a side length. That would be O over A. Put this over 1, cross multiply, so I get X times the tangent of 51 equals 14. But I need to divide by the tangent of 51 so that I can get X by itself. So I do 14 divide by tangent of 51. I get x equals 11.3. I could then use Pythagorean theorem if I wanted to find this third side, or I can just use another trig function. I'm just going to use another trig function. This is hypotenuse, so I'm going to use this angle again. So that's O and H. That would be sine. So I'm going to do sine of 51 equals O, which is 14, over H, which is just H. We don't know that. That's what we're finding. Cross multiply, and I get H times the sine of 51 equals 14. Divide by the sine of 51. So I get H equals, so 14, divide by the sine of 51. I get H equals 18.0. So now I found all the missing information. Okay, number 13, I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to find this side length. So I'm going to do x squared plus 19 squared equals 28 squared. So really that's doing 28 squared minus 19 squared on my calculator. I get x squared equals 423. Square root. I get x equals 20.6. So that side length is 20.6. Now I'm going to find an angle measure, so I'm going to start with U. This side that they gave me is the hypotenuse. This side is the opposite. So I'm going to do sine inverse of opposite over hypotenuse. So that angle U is equal to 42.7 degrees. I'm going to subtract that from 90 to find angle E. So 90 minus 42.7, and I get angle E is 47.3 degrees. And then I found all the missing information on that triangle. Okay, I can't get into Schoology right now. However, I do believe that there is a Schoology assignment to go with this set of notes. And then I also would like for you to complete this assignment, front and back. And then there will be a Schoology assignment for you to enter your answers in for that one also. Okay? So those two things to go along with these sets of notes. Thanks, guys. Oh, and next you guys will have a test over all this material. So that's the last section of notes. So there will be a test coming.